Hey Abigail, this is Marie Mahoney, and I'm just recording a response to your response to your post. I'm sorry, a response to your original post. Okay, yes, hello. I hope you're having a blessed day and a good weekend. I found it really interesting how you were able to just cut through the question and come to two very concise positions, and you were able to articulate that from the get-go. I was very impressed with that you just basically, and you highlighted why there wasn't a change and what you perceived or what was perceived as failures in the United States foreign policy prescriptions. And you split it immediately into assumptions and balancing acts as your main theses for why these things didn't work. Okay, so I'm looking at your assumptions, that the category of assumptions that you created to illustrate why there is some problems with the United States foreign policy. And you talked about the United States and Nixon, Nixon and Kissinger within the United States, and sort of their being the statesmen, the representatives, the people who were highlighting once again U.S. superiority and a strong sense of U.S. superiority. That's the sense that I got from you. And also just sort of an assumption that if Israel was strong, there would be peace. If there was a strong amount of aid and a large amount of aid to the Israelis, then the Arabs would respect that. And not only would they respect that, but they would sort of swing over from the two players that were actually sort of more control of the chessboard, where the Middle Eastern states are just sort of smaller players, or at the very least, or at the most, pawns in the game, so to speak. So the United States and the Soviet Union, you were mentioning how the Arab nations should have been duly impressed by United States and how well we provide aid and that type of thing, even though the Soviets did sort of have a big move of their own arms at various times. They began just very steady stream and supply of arms to their clients, as they were called by the author Quant. But and you mentioned that the Arabs didn't really benefit from the status quo of things staying the way that they were. So all these assumptions that were made were not necessarily accurate and possibly led to some failure of the foreign policy. Also, you mentioned the continuous theme that Dr. Meredith has brought up, the author Jacobs, as well as Quant has mentioned, just sort of a lack of understanding, a westernized mindset, and a lack of understanding of a non-Western mindset. So I appreciate your comments. And then I also was really struck by the author's or the actual concept of the even-handedness that seemed to inform and be one of the greatest planks of Nixon and Kissinger's foreign policy. I also think it was interesting that the author noted how much of a complete, overwhelming role Nixon took in foreign policy, even more than Johnson, and that Nixon seemed to want to be sort of at the helm for most of the work, most of the decisions, even though he sort of had Kissinger sort of attached at the hip, and the two of them kind of worked together. But it's interesting. But the even-handedness policy prescription and tack that they took was very interesting, because, as you mentioned, it's a little hard. The balancing act thing can work really well in some cases and in some scenarios, but it's also really hard to manage and to keep going. So, and then you can kind of fall from that tightrope when you have the balancing act thing going on. So I really appreciate your comments that there would have to be sort of a slow withdrawal from that type of a policy. And I agree with you that there were a lot of real positive things that happened, such as the Soviets pulling out and withdrawing a lot of their support, and the fact that there wasn't a full-on nuclear holocaust and confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union during the time period that our chapters are covering. I guess I would like to ask a question of you. Dr. Meredith's original Dr. Meredith's original question mentioned Israel being conciliatory to the other nations surrounding them when the United States didn't seem to be very forthcoming with support. Would you consider that a fallback position that Israel would have to take, or would you consider that something that they could maintain over a period of time? If that was something that they would, do you consider that something that they would want to proceed with as a real strong tack in their foreign policy prescription, or do you think that that would be what would be the benefits or the drawbacks to them being sort of maintaining sort of a conciliatory position with the neighboring Arab states? That would be my question to you. So thank you again for your wonderful post, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.